Om Shanti. So this is an honor and a privilege really to be here tonight to spend the next hour asking questions and getting some really deep explanations on our future, because the Golden Age is coming and it's nice for all of us to spend time thinking about that. So I never thought really that I would feel so passionate about the Golden Age, because all the Indian images didn't really do much to my heart. But now it feels like as it's coming closer, it's starting to awaken memories. So we want to start off with something that Bap Dada said, because he's the one that's planted the seeds that's awoken inside us. So Bap Dada said, human souls have troubled the elements a lot, and they will also begin to cause trouble. In your kingdom, even matter has to be Sato Pradhan. Who will make matter Sato Guni? You will. So the first question I'm going to ask gentlemen, how did Brahma Baba, Daddy Kumaka, Daddy Jayanti settle their accounts with matter, and how can we do the same?
The last Murli that Baba spoke, if you hear the recording, 18th January 1969, there's not a single cough. And normally what would happen is that Chandras Dada would be the one handling the tape recorder. Everything was much simpler with all sorts of audio systems in those days. It was just a little tape recorder, one. And when Chandras Dada would pause the button whenever Baba coughed, then you could actually hear the sound of the pause. And then Baba would take a moment, would take a sip of water, and then again you could hear that the Murli has started. And so if you listen to that last Murli, there's no pause, there's no cough, and Baba has truly conquered matter. And the way he did this was yoga power. He had settled his karma, he'd conquered matter. But the other beautiful thing is that I'd been a little bit scared as we were coming up the mountain on the 20th morning. And I thought, I've never seen a body without a soul. I wonder what I'll feel like. But actually, when we came into the history hall, the body was laid there. And Baba's face was so beautiful. It didn't look as if anything had happened. It just looked as if Baba was very sweetly resting. And that to me is an indication of, again, conquest of matter and all karmic accounts settled. So the last few moments that Baba had, Baba shared that, how at first there was a pull, the tug of war between karmic accounts and yoga power, and then yoga power won. And what Daddy Prakash Mani describes is that she saw at first the signs of pain, and then the face becoming completely peaceful, and the soul flying off. And so truly the conquest of matter and all karmic accounts clear with yoga power.
And Daddy Jayanti, did you see how she managed?
The fact that I saw Daddy Jayanti reach the brink of departure and come back, and I saw this several times. There'd be times when I'd say, Daddy really seems to be going, but she'd come back. There was still more service to be done, until finally 2020, when she was 104 years of age, then she was ready to go and she flew away. But that last evening, I'd been told I mustn't come to the hospital because I'd been there in the morning already. And the idea was that because in the mornings I'd go to the hospital, see Daddy, this is Global Hospital, and then I'd go off to Pandav Bhavan to tell people that they had to pack and go. That was my job at that time because of COVID. And some had just arrived, but I had to tell them, you have to leave, you have to leave. So I'd be meeting many souls, telling them the story. And so they'd said, then you mustn't come back again in the evening because you might have picked up anything. And so I didn't go in the evening, but Hansa tells me that Daddy was absolutely fresh. And she sat and she met the hospital staff and she gave them drishti, and Hansa was giving them toli. And she had a little bit of food to eat also. And so it was like she was normal, recovered. And I've heard that often happens, that just before departure it's like things are settled, and so the person looks quite well. Yeah. And Daddy Prakash Mani, how she settled was with love and joy, but the message that came through Daddy Gulzar when she had left, in that message, Baba said, what Daddy saw, and Baba said, nature was there to welcome Daddy. Can you imagine? The 5 elements coming to welcome Daddy. So it's a beautiful scene. It's an image that's stuck in my head.
So how do you visualize the elements of nature? How do you see them?
I didn't see them. It was Daddy Gulzar who saw them. And she didn't create a picture of it, but for me it's angels representing earth, air, water.
Okay.
Lovely cartoons.
Do you think that has a connection when Baba says that when we leave our body we should have a smile on our face? Do you think that's connection with, as you were saying with Brahma Baba, that he was just looked so beautiful?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sure that it has a connection. Your final thoughts lead you to your destination, and if your destination is going to be a beautiful one, then you smile at the prospect of going there.
So the next question is how our body is made up of nature and the elements. So clearly this has an impact on our health. Maybe David might like to answer this one. So what can we do to improve our relationship with nature and the elements? Any thoughts?
I must admit, looking at that video, it's very evocative and beautiful. Is that better? Yeah, is that better? Okay, the soul has come. Okay. Some of you know, it's over 20 years ago now, I had a journey of care through thyroid cancer. So I had a chance to look at departure in the eye, and also I had my operation done in India, which was nice in Baba's hospital. I thought quite a lot about that. The science now is very clear, the science of thought, literally that every thought we have affects every cell in the body instantaneously. And so you can very clearly see thoughts and the feelings that we create literally affect every cell in the body. And at that time, because I was being involved in the Jayanti Foundation, and Daddy has told us so many stories about health, and it was very clear. Okay, you don't think about why it's come. Some people say why it's come, but I took the solace from the fact that most of the seniors seem to have had some illness, so I didn't go into the combo of why it's come, just that obviously the consequence of body consciousness. But Daddy was very clear, she said, Daddy was like strong. And I just made sure that I didn't create any, not even negative thought, even any weak thought. In fact, I consciously chose through that journey not to verbalize that I have cancer. I chose consciously because the body's listening. And therefore, in essence, you talk to the body. And Daddy taught us this. I mean, she'd often say, Jayanti would have seen this when he said, come on. She'd pat the knees and come on, let's get going. We've got things to do. And it felt very much like that. So that's what I did. And I did have to have some radioactive iodine because it was thyroid cancer. And that goes straight to the thyroid. I was radioactive for a few days, which was quite fun. I phoned Maureen and said, "Hey, Maureen, I'm on the hospital radio tomorrow." She said, "Oh, really?" She said, "Yeah, it's called radioactive." But the doctor, if you look at the physicality of it, you're putting something that's really not very good into the body. But I remember I asked the nurse, how do I get this stuff out of my body as quick as I can? Because Daddy Gulzar was in London, and I was really determined that I wanted to be not radioactive. But he wouldn't let me out because they come with a Geiger counter until you stop bleeping, they won't let you out. And she said, you have to drink a lot of water. So I can remember literally spending the whole night drinking and then going to the loo. And it was just a feeling that I don't create any negative thought. And even though some of my BK friends would say, my God, you can't be taking that, you're going to poison yourself. And I just, like that frog that didn't hear things, and I looked at it, and I sort of remembered Barbara as best I could, and said, oh, this is totally. This is lovely totally for the body. And then I took it like that. And then of course, the nurses run out the room because you're radioactive. And so, in essence, it's like not having fear and having a conversation that you're talking very gently. And Daddy taught us that even before I went for my biopsy. Daddy, she'd just come back from Germany. And I said, Daddy, I've got to check in at 2 o'clock. She'd never come and see me first. And, she was so kind and so caring, and she filled me with that kind of strength. And the other thing talking kindly to the body. And that's why I will not verbalize things. Even if I make a mistake, say, oh, Dave, that was stupid, that was silly. I've stopped doing that because the body's listening. And so we have to change that. And just sort of jumping completely in Leeds, we have a very good connection. It's with a horse sanctuary, and it's a place where they have abused horses that have been. And we got very friendly with them. And there was one guy there who came along. He's a horse whisperer. And I don't know if you've ever seen that. These horses are horses that, if you move, because they've been abused and beaten, horrible, really. And we had a long conversation, and he told me what he did, and he did it with a horse. And this, a little bit like the images on there, it's very, very beautiful. So that's my recipe.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you want to add anything to that?
Beautiful.
A very lovely answer. And so, in the Golden Age, as deities, how will our relationships be with nature and with living creatures? We've had the videos, but that's not a video of the Golden Age. It's man-made and AI created. But how do you see that? How are our relationships?
if my thoughts are loving and kind and just beautiful, the relationship with human beings is a very sweet one. But it would also then be the same with all forms of life, everything, whether it's the birds and the bees and the lambs and the lions and whatever else there is around. It will just be one of great sweetness. At the end of the Iron Age, I know a girl, and she was at that time quite young. I was quite young. And I'd taken her to Holland Park, and they've got a little enclosure in Holland Park. I don't know whether they still do, probably there. But at that time there was this little enclosure, and she was talking to the animals. They would come to her, and they would just, it was a cage, but they were coming to her. And so if at the end of the Iron Age, somebody can have that ability to talk to animals, and you could see them responding to her, and then they'd make noises, and to me it was a noise, and she'd say, no, this is what they're saying to me. And it was sweet nothings, because there was no business to conduct. But she was just able to communicate. And so certainly when the mind is clear and the intellect is pure and clean, surely, yes, there'll be communication happening with everything. Today also, when they say if you play sweet music, it touches the animals. Animals are impacted by that, but also they pick up all sorts of vibrations. And so certainly in the Golden Age, definitely our pure vibrations, our feelings of harmony, all that will create that state of perfect harmony. When one of the messages from Baba was, when you give a signal, then the birds will start sweet music for you. And so you don't have to tell them, hey, I want you to sing for me now. But they catch your signal, they catch your thought, and they respond with love, with joy, dancing and singing. So definitely it will be a very sweet relationship. But also where, people hug trees at the end of Kali Yuga, or where, you talk to your plants, and the plants grow much better than they would otherwise. All these are little tiny indicators right at the end of the cycle that people have come to recognize. But in Satyug, you don't have to talk to them. You just have to look at them and give them a sweet smile, and they'll respond, really. Because even with human beings, you don't have to have debates or discussions. It's a signal, and we catch each other's signals, and so nature will respond to our signals. The other one was when Baba was saying that when you give a signal, then the trees will start making music because of the wind rustling through the leaves. So, yes, there'll be perfect harmony.
David, would you like to add anything?
Only just in Madhavan, there's two places. One near the Daddy's cottage, I don't know whether we do the dancing. And also on Om Shanti Bhav, not the roof, but I don't know what you call it, the veranda. So sometimes I used to go up there, and in both places, I'd be sort of walking, and there'd be groups of birds, and they were just eating and jumping around and tweeting, and you could literally go right up to them, and they didn't fly off at all. And I thought, how lovely. I think just the vibrations and maybe of the bouquets, I don't know, but it's like, I felt as if they had no fear, whereas now, I mean, you see that in India, like I love the street dogs, the mongrels, they're so cool, and they just lie out in the sun. But if you observe them, quite often when you go near them, they jump back, because in India they're not treated very nicely. But so I think, when there's a vibration of non-violence and love, actually, because it's our creation, isn't it? Then They must respond to that. That's very lovely.
There was a story, if I can just share a story, and it was about Jayanti when she was in South Africa. And I think you were in Cape Town. I wasn't there. This is a second-hand story. But you did a program in an aquarium, and the backdrop was fish tank with all sorts of fish. It was a big, big fish. And Jayanti did the talk, and then the meditation, she did a meditation commentary, and all the fish came to the glass behind her. All the fish. I don't suppose you couldn't have seen it, but the whole audience was seeing all the fish come to the front of the tank.
It wasn't a little tank or anything. It's the aquarium. The whole place was like the aquarium, big, big walls and little fishes, big fishes, sharks and things also. And you were like the centerpiece with all the fishes around you. So yes, I didn't see it myself, but I remember that now, people telling me.
So now we're on to animals. How do animals become sato-pradhan, as they don't make any effort? So how does a lion stop eating meat?
Again, just one of the statements in the Avyak Murli. It was whoever had this idea, it was a brilliant idea to have all of Avyak Bapdada's statements. Baba said in this particular one, when your intellect becomes satoguni, then you're able to make the intellects of others become satoguni also. I'm paraphrasing it, but you remember it came up here now. And so if our intellects can make human intellects satoguni, and human intellects are particularly aggressive at this moment, but if we can do that, then certainly we can influence the animals to have an intellect that's satoguni also. Definitely. At the end of Kali Yuga, people sometimes tell me that the face of the dog and the owner become a little bit similar. Have you heard this? So not just the face, but the qualities. And so here's a deity, pure intellect. So definitely everything around is also pure intellect. So I don't think animals pray. I could be wrong, but I don't think they meditate. But certainly they're influenced by vibrations.
Lovely answer. I shall look at people differently now. I see when a dog looks like its owner. Lovely.
So
David?
I just wanted, gentlemen, you've probably explained this before, but sato-pradhan and sato-guni, same, similar, close?
Guni is the quality, and guni means the quality, and so sato, the truth, the highest, the purest, and then sato-pradhan, the fullness of sato. And so one is the quality being described, and the other is the state of being.
Good.
Okay, so the next question, do animal souls stay within the same species, such as a lion is always a lion, or can it become a cat?
I don't think it's my imagination. I vaguely seem to recall that Baba had said that Sakar Murlis, not yet, that like a cat soul could migrate into a lion soul and the other way. But it's more or less the cat family. And
Okay.
so the dog family, the cat family, so there's families. And so you can travel between the families.
So would it change, a lion change into a horse do you think?
No.
No. Okay.
Different family.
No.
I don't think everybody caught it.
Sorry.
It's subtle. David is very subtle. So this one is about nature. So are we going to take anything from nature in the Golden Age, such as plucking fruit from a tree? And what is the impact of plucking the unripe fruit and shipping it as it happens today?
Well, this I categorically remember. Baba had said you'd be able to just go to the tree and pluck the fruit and enjoy whatever taste it is at that moment you wanted. Whether you wanted something sweet, you wanted something savory, Baba said just the juice would give you that flavor and sweet. So just coming back to your question, yes, you do pluck fruits from the tree, but it's not causing any pain to the tree. Today's system, it's not just that they take the unripe fruits, they use chemicals. They use all sorts of chemicals to then slowly ripen them, because normally they would ripen with sunshine, but then they go on this long journey across the waters, and so they use chemicals. So really, at the end of Kali Yuga, there's nothing that's pure. Yes, you can be a vegetarian or vegan and try and have a wholesome food, but this is why really there's nothing that is completely wholesome in that way.
Even organic?
I don't know whether organic fruits are plucked unripe and travel across. This is why, generally speaking, within the health arena, people say eat local produce and have produce that is in season, rather than in winter time you want a mango. Well, how are you going to get it? It's from a greenhouse, unless it's from South Africa, but there it's summer, but then it's travelled across many oceans. So yeah, all the systems at the end of Kali Yuga are not very nice. You don't think about it usually. You're part of Kali Yuga, and so you carry on. When you start really exploring what's going on, why is it that bodies have become so fragile? Why is it that our immunity has become so low? I know people who've been very, very careful with their diet, and so they've tried to have organic, they've tried to have clean, pure water, whatever, but yet they get sick. And so anyway, the body doesn't have that strength, it's tamoguni. And then also you have food which isn't completely wholesome. So end of Kali Yuga is, this is why Baba was saying, can you not hear the cries of distress, whether it's because of health issues or whether it's violence or natural disasters? We should really be wanting to turn that key so that the gates of mukti open very quickly. It's time for liberation.
Anything, David, do you want to add?
I did, but I've just had a karma teeth moment and it's gone again.
Okay.
Okay, actually, one thing, because some of us are really across gardening and growing, and I saw a YouTube video about eating seasonally, which is not so easy now, but when you eat seasonally, I thought it was really interesting, when the flower's growing, the plant or the vegetable's growing, all the energy is going into that part of the plant, the leaves, and then when the flower comes, all the energy is going into the flower, and then when the seed is formed, all the energy is going into the seed. So, because I'm also getting into a bit of foraging now, free food, and that's one of the things that when you take seasonally, it's nice because obviously there's different things around at different parts of the year, but also nature is putting its energy into that. Like, this is a little bit of a tangent, but anything now that's coming out in spring, I check, is it edible? And I'm finding out, beech beech trees, the leaves in the first couple of weeks, edible. So beech hedges, brambles where you go past just as the shoots are coming. People used to eat those. You take them off and eat them, and which is great. But the thing is that the energy of the plant is going into opening that bud or whatever, and therefore it's energetic, it's healthy.
So now we're back to animals. Will we be taking anything from animals or wear anything from animals in the Golden Age? That's the first question. Do we keep animals such as domestic farm animals, or do we ride animals in the Golden Age?
I think horse riding began only in the Copper Age. I don't think we'll be using animals in that way. We'll be having fun with them, playing with them. They'll be happy, we'll be happy. But I don't think we'll be using animals. And certainly we wouldn't be wearing anything from animals. You know, the classic image of Krishna is with a peacock feather in his crown. And in the Sakar Murli, again, I know for a fact that it's what I remember, Baba had said, can you imagine the peacock shedding its feather and then somebody picking it up and putting it into Krishna's crown? It's not going to happen. It can't be like that. So no, we won't be using any animal products whatsoever. No need.
No need. Yeah. On the basis of souls and matters having become pure, how do we communicate with animals and nature in the Golden Age? Is it through telepathy or thought power?
Vibrations and thoughts, yes, telepathy.
Okay. So what do we eat in the Golden Age? Wheat, beans, lentils, chickpeas, milk, or is it just flowers and fruit? Because Baba does talk about grains and milk, and there's another question. Jains don't eat any vegetables grown underground. So where does that concept come from? Will we cook anything?
One of those scenes with Avyakt Bapdada in Om Shanti Bhavan, with Baba's children seated on the stage, and somebody from abroad asked Baba this question, Baba, will we cook there? And during the day there'd been this whole debate, and so now they had an opportunity to ask Baba. And everybody was really waiting, what's Baba going to say? And Baba said, yes, of course they will cook. Why? Because it's a sign of hospitality and love, and you want to treat your guests well. And people were quite disappointed with Baba's answer, because they had hoped, a number of them, that Baba would say, no cooking. And so they really thought Baba would give them liberation from cooking. But Baba didn't give that answer. And then the next question put to Baba was, what sort of energy will be used? And Baba did say that it will be atomic energy. Now how, I have no idea, but some form of atomic energy. And now there are scientists who are in contact, and they've taken the course. I've met a couple of them, and they are very, very close to Gyan. Actually, one of them is hearing Murlis, and they talk about neutrino energy. Now, I don't know enough about neutrino energy to explain it to anyone, but it's from the atom, but it's non-violent, and it's a very subtle form of energy. Anyone here know more about neutrino energy?
It's a neutral particle which doesn't have positive or negative charge, and therefore it will be satoguni, and it should not have any negative effect or positive effect. It's a plasma.
you should have the microphone because
Yeah, because it's being
I don't want to repeat what you've just said.
So, in an atom, there are positive and negative electrons and positrons. Neutrons are neutral, so they do not have any charge and they do not have real action, but it can be converted into energetic particle. Therefore, the action will be neutral. Just like a karma, we will not be creating karmas.
So that's already an energy that has been understood and channeled, but the forces of Kali Yuga are such that this person who started this foundation and did the research with neutrino energy, he found that there were others against him because it meant they could see that this could be the stopping of fossil fuels. And so they found ways to block his accounts, they found ways to stop his research and so on. And so he's struggling, but he's still continuing. And as I say, I've met him once, but I've met him on Zoom a few times.
Use the microphone, Jayanti.
This person is also a German.
BK scientists. And so in Berlin, there were two brothers at the center.
Thorsten.
Yeah, and they are doing more research, so he was going to state about that. And so they are really coming up with many new things. So wait and see.
Yeah.
Later.
You know, whenever Baba spoke to the German group, Baba would always talk about the scientists from Germany. And now this neutrino scientist is a German himself. So let's see what happens in the future. So your question about the food and cooking food here.
Yeah, what will we eat?
Little Mohini, after Baba's Murli, I think it was in 80s that Baba was speaking about golden age. And Mohini Ben, we used to joke with her and we said, no cooking, no this. She said, no, there'll be fruits of chili fruit, there'll be sour fruit, there'll be this taste for all the masalas. You know, we'll have different fruits flavor. That's what Mohini Ben was saying.
Baba had said that you won't need to add any condiments. You'll be able to get the taste, that variety taste, just from the natural vegetables and fruits. Yeah.
Yeah, you could try it. You could actually cook some vegetables without putting salt and pepper and condiments on, and actually taste the vegetables.
I was in India, in the south, and somebody was cooking, and they said that I'm not using any salt in the cooking. And when we had the food, it tasted delicious. You know, I like salt, and so I think it would be a big sacrifice not to add salt to food. But it tasted delicious, and she then told me that it was a specific seaweed that is dried and used. And so it's not that it smells of anything, because again, my nose is sensitive, and seaweed, I couldn't take it as it is. But she said that it's because she uses seaweed as seasoning instead of salt. And so yes, you can even now get samples of, also, you know, stevia. People are now into stevia, and so it's a natural plant and it's sugar. I mean, it's a sweet taste, so you can use it instead of sugar. So now even there's traces of all of this. But I think that we don't need to eat grain in Satyug, in the sense that bodies are so light, we have so much spiritual energy that you won't feel like, you know, like now people crave for bread. crave for chapati. They want something solid and heavy. And when people move from a meat diet to a vegetarian diet, they really feel that it's not satisfying because it's not so heavy in their tummy. In the same way, when people decide to give up grains, and I know a few people who have decided that, when they move from grain-free to just vegetables and fruits, again it's very light, and you have to get used to it. So this way I don't think they'll be using grain. And if it's milk, it must be coconut milk. I don't think it's cow milk in Satyuk.
And coconut milk is very sweet. It's very delicious.
So I know that Baba might be using the word milk in Satyuk, but I'm sure it's not from an animal. If Baba doesn't want us to pick up a peacock feather, that tells you a story.
And how about this concept of vegetables that are underground, that Jains don't eat vegetables with?
I think that, now this is my theory, if there's somebody from a Jain background, correct me, but because, they wear masks, because they don't want to breathe in any of the little insects that are floating around in the atmosphere. So it's not protection for themselves, but it's protection for the other creatures. In the same way, if you're pulling up a carrot, how many bacteria are you pulling up with it? Soil bacteria. And so that whole concept of ahimsa, do no harm, no violence, that's very much a Jain philosophy. And so I think that that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so no chips then, in the Golden Age, no chips.
I don't think in Satyug we'll eat fried food.
Good.
We have all relationships with Baba. Don't we? Have all relationships with Baba now.
Yes.
Just okay, it's a little bit circumspect, but I did hear, mothers who are fastidious about cleaning everything. Their children get more ill and get more allergies, and so of course there are some naughty bacteria and stuff in the soil, but if you speak to most gardeners don't when they're out on the lot, they don't wash much this, and those. That's one of the reasons why the immune system has dropped, because everything's like super clean. So I'm not saying we eat dirty, because we are, as BKs, we're very, very clean. But it's when you're thinking about vegetables, particularly if it like what I grow, I know there's no chemicals and there's no nasties, so I'm not too bothered, but I clean them for other people, because again, I might have shared this last time, but it's what's going on in the mind. Like we know, there was a case where there was two patients with a similar name, and one got diagnosed with cancer and one didn't, and for some reason the doctors mixed up the names, and so they told the patient, who was actually okay, his test came back normal, I'm awfully sorry, but you've got quite an aggressive cancer. And then the next day they told him, awfully sorry, we've made a mistake, and he didn't believe them, and he died.
Real story?
Yeah, this is a real story. So that's why, it's the power of the mind. I'm not saying that we should. I'm not saying that we don't clean and stuff, but going back to this thing of fear, it's like this relationship with nature. I'm thinking, we are the souls who are, in a sense, the masters of the world, which means we have total love for nature. So when I'm doing in the garden or with soil, I'm thinking, why would they want to harm me when I love them? So it's like even the bugs and things, and those of you who know about soil science, I mean, there's a whole world under the soil which is quite magical. But then why would they want to harm me? Because I'm doing things with kindness and love, and why would they want to harm me? And so I think this subtle fear is not useful.
Dadi Kumarka, one year when she'd come from Madhuban, she was sharing the story of how Shantivan was very primitive at that point. It wasn't used for programs or anything. This was still the very early days when there was just that banyan tree with the concrete base where we would have our picnics. And then where Dadi's cottage, a very big cottage now, it was very basic, simple cottage, literally basic. And Dadi shared the story of how just before she had left, who remembers that story about a snake? Right, so she said that she'd gone into the bathroom and there was a snake and big ones. And she was just very still and she just remembered Baba, and the snake very quietly went away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our vibrations of fear attract violence. Our vibrations of love and peace, calm, whatever other intentions there may have been.
And also, like, the older films, Dr. Dolittle, I love, the cartoons with all the animals. It's like, you see them and all the birds flying around, and it's this whole thing of just love. I mean, it's a cartoon thing, but it's very attractive.
Yeah.
It feels like that's how it would be in the Ghost.
Yeah.
Don't you think? Loving? Yeah?
So 2 more questions, if we can squeeze them in. Our new BK Environment Principles, one of our new BK Environment Principles is walking gently on the earth. So what's the difference in the way we walk here and in the Golden Age? Do we walk so lightly on the grass that we don't leave footprints?
Daddy used to tell us this. It was a group of Kumaris usually that she was talking to. And I remember 2, 3 incidents when she was training Kumaris. And so she'd ask them the question, how do you walk? Do you cause sorrow to the earth when you're walking? Do you cause sorrow to the doors because you're angry inside and you're slamming them? Or are you able to walk peacefully on the earth? Are you able to keep the door shut quietly so that then nobody is disturbed? You're not disturbed, the door's not disturbed, nobody else is disturbed. That was dramatic effect. So yes, you can walk on the earth, and it's true, when you're happy, you're light, you're floating. And the deity's bodies are very, very light anyway. But today, it's not just the weight of the body, more it's the emotions we go through. And when your emotions are up and down, well, that's how you behave. And you're giving sorrow to the earth, sorrow to the doors and everything else.
Okay, so this is the last question. During the pandemic, nature was thriving without interference from humans. There is a saying that humans need nature to survive, but nature doesn't need humans to survive. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely correct. When I'm in a place like Oxford or Madhuban, Gyansrovar, Shantivan, which used to be jungle land, and in Oxford, of course, there was also just no human habitation. I always think we've taken over this land from these other species. And so if I'm seeing spiders and lots of ladybirds, and in Oxford you get lots of ladybirds, and all these other creatures come in, I think to myself, well, we've taken this from them. It's actually their property. And so I shouldn't be complaining about why they're here or getting upset with that, but rather it's their space.
Last thought from you, David?
What was the question? Sorry, I was just transfixed by Sister
Another
Jess.
karma tea moment, was it?
No.
No, not this time.
During the pandemic, nature was
yeah.
thriving.
Yeah, I follow a YouTube guy in America, and the channel's called Nature Knows Best. You know, like in growing, like gardeners and farmers, basically what you're doing, nature knows best, and we're just kind of getting out of the way and helping. And if you observe nature, like for instance, I don't know how to prune trees, but on Baba's allotment, we've got a lot of fruit trees. So I just call it intuitive pruning. And I was talking the other day, you know, normally you think fruit's on the end of the branches, but I noticed last year that you get fruit on these little spurs, you know, the very short little branches. And previously I was going around cutting them off, but because I'd noticed they had fruit on them, so I kept them on. And this year there's loads of blossom on that. So you have to sort of just go with nature and not think, oh, it's tidy if you cut this, cut this, cut this. And years ago, I think Japanese, you know, the gardener for the emperor, he would like sit in the garden for 3 months, 6 months before he'd do anything, just watching where the sun came up, where it went down, where the shadows were. So he knew, and then he would start planting things. So it's like, you know. And in medieval gardening, they had that. It's very interesting. I watched a video on that. In medieval gardening, they're using things which is like modern day eco, but just by observation. So they'd plant things that were a bit more tender against what we now call a south-facing wall, because the walls absorb the sun, and so it's warmer around that area in winter. And they'd also plant things around the animal pens, because the heat from the animals would come out, and so the air around where the animals were was actually warmer. Oh, that's really clever, just by observation.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have science. Do you think they want any questions?
Yeah, so we finished our questions. Is there any questions from any of you? We have a mic.
You didn't cover, you said dogs and lion, you said cats and lion or tiger, but you didn't mention dogs. What about dogs?
I didn't mention elephants
Will
either.
there be dogs in Satya? Will there be dogs in Satya?
There's lots of things in dog families. There's the wolves, the foxes. I think they're part of the dog family, right? But there'll be. I don't think there'll be as many species in Satyuga as there are in Kali Yuga. I think just as the population of humans is much, much reduced, I think the population of the animals will also be much reduced, but also the number of species will be reduced, and then gradual development and growth. And
these two mothers, they have a question, and their question is, will we be soul conscious or body conscious in Golden Age?
Humans? No. Humans. I thought maybe you're talking about... Yeah, humans will definitely be self-conscious. This is why we are able to read each other's thoughts. We're communicating with telepathy. Yeah, definitely.
Anyone else has any questions? Just we got a couple more minutes. You want to put your hand up there? Yeah.
I'm curious whether there's any body piercing in the Golden Age, i.e. earrings.
Sorry?
Any body piercing in the Golden Age,
Body
i.e. earrings.
piercing.
Oh, definitely. It'd be very holy there.
No, I don't think so. I think that's also harming the body, hurting the body. Yeah. You can have lots of ways of wearing jewelry. Yeah. No, I don't think there's any body piercing.
Om Shanti. Jayanti, can you hear me? I just wondered, what am I going to be doing in Golden Age if I get there? As a medical professional, let me explain. There are going to be no doctors, I understand.
No, we won't need doctors. You'll be redundant. But in Satyug, you don't want to be a doctor. In Satyug, you just want to enjoy life. And whatever it is we're doing, we're going to be enjoying it. If we're studying, we're enjoying. If we're teaching, we're enjoying. If we're taking care of a family, we're enjoying. Whatever it is we do, we'll just simply be in the moment. That's the other thing about Satyug, being in the present, truly in the present. No worries about the future, nothing about the past bothering me. The mind totally clear.
They wouldn't have to check the weather report
No,
to see whether it was going to be okay for a picnic.
No. There's lots of professions that will be redundant, and so meteorologists will not be needed.
That'd be good. It'll be a good churning. What will be there in the Golden Age, and what won't be there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've often looked at the Sakar Murlis and thought there's a whole new dictionary that comes from Baba about the Golden Age. What is the language we use and what are the things we don't use? So I've never done it, but it's often crossed my mind that somebody should compile a full dictionary.
And if they're going to send a postcard, because Linda lives by the sea, what would it be? Vishnu were here, having a lovely time, weather's lovely. Vishnu were here?
Yeah, Vishnu were here. Yes, really.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't think we need it. I think whatever are the machines and things that we have, like say the Vimans, they're programmed. Of course, there must be somebody who's programmed them. Baba's talked about it recently, actually a few weeks ago, that there will be scientists who will carry the skills from here there to be able to produce all the things that we're going to use. So I don't need to understand how the engine of a car works. I don't need to make it. I just need to drive it. So in the same way, I don't need to worry about who's created the equipment for the Viman. I just need to have the thought, I want to go from here to there. And it'll happen. And there are machines already very close to that, yeah.
And we'll choose the colours.
Yes.
We'll choose the colours. The boys will create the machine and we'll choose the colours.
Linda, there's many, many engineers in India who are sisters.
I know, but they'll choose the colours as well. So, shall we have any more questions?
Om Shanti,
Okay.
One small question. What will happen to the dresses which we have worn once? Like if we have used that dress once, so what will we be reusing that or?
Sorry?
Lakshmi Narayan, she changes a new dress every day. What will happen to the old dress?
They'll be passed on to others. Because nothing goes to waste. Everything is recycled in the Golden Age.
So we will be wearing daily new dress?
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe Krishna has a new dress, doesn't he? Maybe Krishna has a new dress every day in the Hare Krishna temple.
Yeah. That was going to be quite popular, pre-loved Lakshmi sari or something.
But I want you to think about what would be the consciousness in the Golden Age, what would be the awareness in the Golden Age, and then all of these things will happen in a very natural way.
And what we have to practice
So
now.
when we won't be wearing sari of 5 meters or 5.5 meters long.
Well, the visions that people have had of Lakshmi and Narayan and the garments, they have flowing garments. So how many yards there are, I have no idea. But it's not just, a little piece of material that you drape around.
Last question.
I wanted to ask about the form of matter, because in Kali Yuga it's very dense, and I just imagine that in the Golden Age it's going to be different, very different from matter as we know it now, including bodies and everything.
There was a sentence in this the film that we saw earlier, and it was Avyat Baptada's statement that you'll be wearing crowns, but they'll be as light as cotton wool. So that gives you an idea. If gold can be as light as cotton wool, every aspect of matter is again filled with that lightness in terms of texture, but also in terms of weight. So everything definitely very light. So no bodies of lots of kilos.
Should we have a few minutes here?
Okay, last question.
Oh,
from
another
Dean.
question.
How do you visualize that period in which there was a transformation and until things are really set up? Because the beauty is not from the first second after the destruction. So there will be a moment in which it takes time to have things done and to have that beauty of the Golden Age. I don't know if I was clear enough.
The transformation time.
Yeah, the transformation from the moment of the destruction until, the engineers, the scientists can.
It was a question that I always had. How long would that sort of transition time be? And then, have you seen the book Flash Time? It's a big, thick book. Okay, so it's a book. Yeah, it's in the shop, and it's a whole story of trying to match up science with the things Baba said about the cycle. But I asked Julian, the author of this book, where did he get this title from, Flash Time? And he told me that he's come to Baba in the 70s, early 70s. And so he said that he'd been with Adikul Sar and he'd asked her that question because he'd been into geology and gems and time and all of these things. And she paused for a moment and then she said, it'll happen in a flash. And the more I think about it, the more I feel that that's exactly how it will be. It's not a long time lag between the end and the beginning, but it's a continuum. And so it would be just a flash. I leave it with you to think about it. But it felt comfortable. But tonight, just dream about Baba, Shiv Baba, Brahma Baba, the angel and the deities that you were. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Linda. And thank you, Maria.
And thank you to the team, because this was a very big joint effort. Joanna, Jane, Maria, David.
Interesting, North and South got together.